Hey guys, welcome to another Zelda Breath of the Wild discussion. This time we're joined by Derek Binder to discuss all the Zelda updates from the past couple of weeks. So let's get started. Alright Derek, so as it turns out, our weekly updates are back, only in the form of bi-weekly updates it seems. Hopefully. Hopefully we'll maintain the bi-weekly thing.
At least we're getting some images at a decent clip. I mean,
right?
It's not every day, but we're still getting something so that we can actually do this.
And as it turns out, they're not all just landscape shots. I mean, Nintendo pretty much lied in that respect. We're getting concept art, and we're getting some new things in these too. So let's go and just jump into things here. The first picture is of Link in some kind of snowy mountain area, standing by a campfire and what looks to be a tent. So first off, just taking it as a whole, I think this is a pretty image. It's pretty.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, we got the skyline out there. You can obviously see it's either dawn or dusk, and it really sets the mood of just like a cold winter's night. And there's not a whole lot that I can say. Although it is interesting that the wall next to him seems to be made of pure ice. Like, I wonder if he'll have trouble actually climbing that.
That's a great point. It does look like you can almost see the sun reflecting off of it, perhaps, or some lighting refraction happening there. Yeah, I mean, that would be an interesting wrinkle here, right? If there were some surfaces that Link, and we've already seen in the shrines, Link can't climb the walls there, but perhaps this is something he might need special equipment for. Like, maybe he would slip down normally, so maybe you have to get a pickaxe.
That'd be cool if there was like an upgrade to help you even just climb normal surfaces longer so you don't like tire out as quickly. Because that has to be easier.
You know, otherwise you could just climb everything, which is what it seemed like at E3. But there were some restrictions in place that would kind of make sense. Okay, now one of the major questions is, of course, where in the world does this take place? And my initial thought was, it looks like the plateau, just because that's the most we've seen of, a snowy region in the game. But I'm pretty sure we haven't seen that frozen wall there on the right, or that frozen mountain. Which makes me think this is probably in the snowy region to the northwest, which we already covered to some degree in our analysis. Because we even saw some frozen structures similar to this wall here, as well as, the pine trees in the distance as well, which granted are on the plateau as well. But I also don't recall seeing this fire or the campsite, or the tent, on the plateau.
You're probably right, because next to those pine trees that we see in the distance, it looks to be poles with banners on them as well. And I believe you pointed out those same types of banners in that mountainous area as well. Now, the question I also have, though, is that we see these white mounds on the left of this picture. And I wonder if those are hills that are just covered in snow, or if they're actually like piles of snow that you could like sink down into, or something crazy like that. Or because Link is an elf, does he just walk across them like Legolas?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, it's hard to say from this. We haven't really seen any deep snow yet, like, that would prevent Link from moving around easily. So I'm inclined to think it's, just a surface level. I mean, I don't know why it would be much deeper than the snow we're seeing here, for instance.
That's true.
Now, Derek, one thing about snow, as you may know, is that regions that have it are often cold. And of course, we can see Link standing next to a campfire. And the cool thing about this game, so to speak, is that we know from E3, the campfires aren't just background details. They actually will keep Link warm. You can also use them to, skip ahead in time. But I think that's just really neat that, you actually have to think about this stuff now. You have to think about the environment and the things you have, the clothing you have equipped on you. And the campfire can serve as a last resort in order to stay warm if you're not properly equipped. Or maybe if the area is just too cold that even your clothing is enough to keep you warm.
The bigger question I have is the tent that's right next to him. I don't think this is a tent that he made himself. It's too run down and ragged, and it's using the rocks behind it to sort of hold down the tarp. This feels like something that's just old and just happens to be there. And we haven't really seen Link use a tent in the past before, in any of the footage that we've seen of Breath of the Wild. So it's just one of those details that they add into the game that's, I guess, give the world some more character. But I'm wondering if there's anything else about this tent that has any meaning.
I mean, it could possibly indicate a character being in that region, maybe. Or, if it is, then again, it could just be a relic of the past, as you mentioned. It does look old and run down. It could still be in use, but we've seen stuff like this before with remnants of past societies or past, people who were there. So I'm inclined to think it's just more of a background detail that Link just happens across. So, do you think he can use the tent for any real purpose at all, or?
I mean, maybe he can break it down and get them just the raw materials, but I'm not positive on that one.
Yeah.
That's just me thinking in terms of Minecraft.
Wouldn't that be something? You take your sword to it and it turns into a pile of wood and fabric. I don't see that happening. I'm pretty sure that is just a background detail, but hey, you never know. Okay, now before we move on, there were a few comments posted about this image on Nintendo's Facebook page, or on the Zelda Facebook page, I thought would be fun to bring up, just because some of them bring up some points that I think are worth discussing, even though this first one is just kind of funny. So the top rated comment on this image is from Juan, and he says, "Nice, can't wait for the 50-minute discussion on Game Explain," and it got 231 likes. So Derek, we have our work cut out for us. We gotta add another 45 minutes to this baby.
One of these weeks it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be this week, but it's going to happen. You know us. It's just inevitable.
Yeah, it probably is just a matter of time knowing us. Anyways, moving on to another comment that brings up an actual point is Sebastian, who says, "The game looks so empty, hope I am wrong." And that's something I thought was worth bringing up, because it's something I've seen posted in the comments just every now and then, whether on articles or our own videos even. And I can totally see where they're coming from. Now, even though it's not a concern I have myself, based on my playtime with Breath of the Wild, it is a concern and something I've experienced with open world games in general, where you often have these giant, big areas with almost nothing to do, and they exist only for the sake of being big. And to be fair, it's a complaint you can even lob at some of the Zelda games currently, like Twilight Princess, which that's one of my main reasons I don't like that game, is because there's these giant fields with nothing in them, nothing of interest to do. So before I expand on my thoughts even more though, Derek, I want to get your thoughts on this. Even though you haven't played the game, is that, or maybe because you haven't played the game, is that a fear you have based on everything you've seen of it?
I mean, in some respects, yes, but we've seen, obviously, with the material stuff and you being able to cut down trees, those trees all of a sudden have an importance where, like, you don't need to cut down every single one, but if you need that material, hey, there's a tree nearby that I can actually get that from. As far as having stuff to do, well, I was actually going to bring this up before the comments, but this actually segues nicely into it. But we have a kind of path here next to this ice wall and between those snowy hills, and it really does look like a perfect path that Link could, use his shield to snowboard down. Like, it's just sort of like set up there. So I almost feel like this path is more designed for that. So in that way, it does have a purpose. Now, I could be completely wrong about this, and obviously you have to work your way up, so going up this hill is not nearly as fun as going down, but I do think that is a legit concern to have, but I've not seen anything concrete enough to make me worry about that. There always seems to be plenty to do, and I mean, you actually played the game and got to experience this world a little bit. Did you get that feeling where it felt like this stuff was too empty and there wasn't enough to do, or?
Not in the plateau, but I will readily admit it could just be because everything was so new about the game. Like, it being empty didn't feel like it mattered, because it felt like there was a lot to do within those regions even. Whether it's collecting materials or breaking things down, or climbing up any mountain you come across. But I could see that being a concern later in the game. Again, everything was so fresh at E3. Anything you could do I found was fun. Like, everything was just enjoyable. But we haven't seen anything, or we haven't seen much off the plateau, and we haven't played it ourselves. So we'll see. At this point, I'm not too concerned about it. Even this area to me, it looks like it has structure. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't look like it was just thrown together.
No, exactly. That's why I brought up the path and whatnot.
Right.
So it all kind of works. And I mean, as you said, it's all brand new. It could be completely different as you get through it. But we also have like all these, like, I forget the exact number of shrines, but tons of shrines to explore.
Over 100.
There's villages to go into. So hopefully it's structured in such a way that makes sense, and it's not just, forest looks good here, we'll just toss in a forest and they can travel this distance to get to this point.
Right.
Or, not that Morrowind or Skyrim or anything does stuff like that, but to lessen that feeling.
Yeah, it's something we'll have to wait for the full game to see how it ends up being. I really hope this world is dense and doesn't just end up being as vapid and empty as Twilight Princess. At the very least, we know there's a lot you can collect, along the way. Whether that stuff itself has meaning is going to play into all this. Like, we just don't know enough at this point to fully judge.
Like, it's cool to see the scale, but it needs to have something.
Exactly. Alright, well, let's go move on to the next image, which I don't think there's too much to talk about, but it's concept art of what I think may be the same outfit Link's wearing, or at least a very similar outfit to what Link's wearing in the image we were just discussing, being his being his cold weather tunic. Nintendo describes it as, this concept art for Link's cold weather tunic looks nice and warm. He's probably going to want some socks though.
Though, as many of the people in the comments mention, and you have to wonder yourself, is like, not so much the not having socks, but he also is wearing capris in the winter. It's like, you might want to change his pants out to have something a little bit more, I don't know, warm?
Yeah, that'd be nice, I would think, right? Yeah. That seems kind of like an obvious oversight. Come on, Link.
Just a bit.
What is interesting is that this whole clothing aspect of you trying to stay warm or stay cool is something we have kind of seen before in Zelda to a lesser degree, but we have seen it before, like in Ocarina of Time with you having to wear the red tunic in order to enter the volcano to withstand the heat. So this is taking that same basic idea but just building upon it and making it something even more important, just with more degrees of variability, so to speak.
Kind of like how in the first two Metal Gear Solid games you had to just hide, and then Metal Gear Solid 3 introduced a micro-scale version where you had to match up camo so you can hide even better. Mm-hmm. This is sort of that same concept where now you're dealing with each of the different weather effects and the different ways you can approach those,
right.
Which is nice. It gives that extra bit of depth, and you can really play how you want, or also limit you. Like, I don't really want to risk going into this snowy mountain because I'm going to freeze to death and I don't have that many hearts, so I'll come back later.
Alright, let's go and move on to another winter image. In fact, this one is a holiday image, and Nintendo says, hope your holidays are legendary. And now this one probably doesn't really have much to do with the game itself. It's clearly meant just for the holiday season. I do like though the lead up to this. Like, they've had all winter themed images so far, really tying into the holiday season here. And I just love the artwork here. I love how they turned the Guardian into like a makeshift Christmas tree. There's a star on top his lip in different colors. Like, this is just a very fun image to me. You have the Moblin like snowman there.
Yeah, the Guardian stands out to me the most. I love the different lights. Maybe it's because Ash has been talking about Pac-Man Championship Edition so much lately, but those colors do remind me of that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you got the looks on Link and Wolf Link's face out in the cabin. It's just sort of like, what the heck's going on out there? It
just feels so like warm and something very comforting about
cute.
This. Yeah, it's cute. So my question is, Derek, do you think this artwork has any significance at all to the game? Or is it just artwork for the sake of being, cute artwork? Because as Alan brings up in the Facebook comments, he says that Wolf Link is becoming so prominent in his artwork, so I'm starting to think he has an actual importance to the story. Maybe the theory of Breath of the Wild being a Twilight Princess sequel is legit, although he personally thinks it might still be a direct sequel to Skyward Sword. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Obviously, we're the masters of looking a little too deep into something, but I think it's one of those things where this is just a fun image. It's not really meant to, I don't know, be taken seriously in any real way. I mean, we got a Guardian with tinsel all over it, so it's just one of those things where you have a boy and his dog, which also happens to be him and some other life, hanging out there. Now, Wolf Link has shown up a lot, but I also think like this is just like marketing, like, hey, you can use this Wolf Link amiibo to get him out there. But I don't think, especially since Wolf Link is only accessed, as far as we know, through amiibo, he's not going to have any story significance to me.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have any story significance either. And I think we've touched on, I don't even know if we've talked about the amiibo really that much. But
not really.
I still wonder if there could be some significance to his prominence, just in all the Twilight Princess connections we've seen. And we've seen an increasing amount. You can start off with the Great Bridge of Hylia. Now we have the seemingly Castletown connections in the most recent trailer. It's really making me wonder if there might be something to, if there might be something significant to the Twilight Princess connections here. Like, could this be more of a direct sequel than what seemed like at first?
It could definitely be. There's a lot, as you said, there's a lot of Twilight Princess connections, but I'm still also holding on to the fact that at least I'm personally hoping that this takes place after Link fails in Ocarina of Time, that third timeline that leads to stuff like the original Legend of Zelda and A Link to the Past and all that, because I want an explanation for that. And so that's what I more than anything else, that's just my own personal bias there. I just want an explanation, and hey, here's the reasoning behind it, and here's a game to really lay that out there for you. Plus, it's just a time that really wasn't explored much. So
yeah, that's true.
I don't know, but that's my own personal bias. There is a lot of Twilight Princess stuff going around, and like I said, I don't think Wolf Link is going to have any importance himself, other than the fact that you should get this amiibo because you have a cute Wolf Link following you around at all times and helping out. But otherwise, it's certainly possible.
Yep. Alright, well I think we covered that pretty well, especially because this image might not mean anything. It's just a cute little thing Nintendo did. So let's move on to perhaps the biggest one. Actually, definitely the biggest one. Even though I don't know how much we'll have to say about this either, even though I always say that and we always have a ton to say, so I should stop saying that. Anyways, this image shows off Link in a shrine, in what has to be a new shrine, because he's taking on a brand new type of Guardian we have not seen before. Now this one appears to be a variant on the smaller ones because it has what appears to be 3 legs as opposed to 6, and we've only seen them in the shrines itself. So this guy may follow along the same lines because we've only seen the big ones outside of the shrines. So Derek, any general thoughts about this guy?
I honestly thought we were only gonna get 2, the big ones and the small ones, which makes a lot of sense. But this one is very different from those. It has a blue, like it actually uses that blue light as a bladed weapon.
You can call it what it is, Derek. It's a lightsaber.
Okay, he's using a lightsaber. He's one with the Force, although it's matching up with that whole Star Wars thing. It looks like Link has cut off his arm. Yeah. So, definitely Star Wars. But yeah, it really is showing that they're going the whole hog with the Guardian design. It is probably the most important aspect of this game. It has been prominent since the very beginning along with Link. But it's also really cool. It's like, could Link get a blue sword like that? Because that'd be kind of awesome. You can have Link with a lightsaber.
That's a good point. So, I guess to tie in real quick, the final image of the week shows off concept art of that very same Guardian. And then Nintendo says, as you've seen in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Link will need to battle enemies called Guardians that come in a variety of sizes and shapes. And we can definitely see that here, even better in the concept art, where we can see he does in fact have 2 arms, confirming that Link cut off one in the previous image. And we get a better look at that lightsaber thing too, and that actually consists of what looks to be like 3 different blades, which is pretty intense looking. So the fact that he cut off his arm, yeah, I wonder, does that mean he could pick up his entire arm and use it as a 3-bladed lightsaber?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Right?
That'd be so cool, because we've seen you pick up weapons from other enemies before and use their stuff, so I'm all kinds of down for that. I don't know how strong it'll be or exactly what all that's about, but just that concept alone would be really cool. And I like this design, I gotta say. It's really clever. You can almost kind of see how it would work because, you know, we've seen it with 3 legs and the concept art also shows 3 legs, right, but this time with the middle leg being in the front rather than the back. So that either means it has 4 legs, or what I think is the more likely option, the top section spins, where it sort of does a rotating thing to try to hit Link. But, you know, there's tons of ways to really interpret that, but I just like the design of this thing, and the fact that it has those 3 very differently shaped weapons on each of its arms is interesting to say the least.
Yeah, this seems to be the most mechanically complex one we've seen. Like, we can see like what might look like actual joints with this guy, right, at the shoulder blade. I also like too how it looks like it looks like he might start off in a more compact form before his neck pops out, becoming a more, you know, towering creature. Yeah,
almost.
Yeah,
you could totally see where it sort of its neck dips in.
Right.
In the concept art.
I think this is, yeah, it's just a cool looking enemy. Like, I love the idea of the Guardians, and I like that there's even more to them than what we've seen. And this guy looks particularly menacing. All the other ones so far have really only just moved around and shot lasers out of their eyes. Not that that should be underplayed, because those are really powerful. But it's possible this guy has that functionality, I'm sure he does, on top of having these bladed weapons, making him a danger both near and far. Like, I don't want to get anywhere near this guy.
The fact that they have these blue energy swords really makes me hope that Link will get something to that degree as well. Obviously, it probably won't be as good as the Master Sword, because, you know, it has to be the end-all, be-all weapon, other than the Bigoron sword.
Right.
But it's still, I don't know, Link with a lightsaber? I'm down for that.
Now, it is kind of interesting that the concept art, as I mentioned, shows 3 blades, but based on the image, it looks like he only has the center one here.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a reason for that? Did they just, you know, did they just realize, hey, maybe 3 is a little bit excessive? Let's just narrow it down to 1?
It could be, or maybe he like swaps between the 3, or
yeah.
I'm not sure. Or this is just another variation where some of them only have 1 blade, others have 3, and their attack patterns change in some way. It's hard to say for sure.
It does look like his arms have like a Swiss Army knife thing to them, where you can swap between different blades maybe or something. I don't know what purpose that would serve, because the center one is the biggest of them all,
Yeah, and the one on the bottom looks like a can opener, which I'm not sure.
That'd be awesome. He's just like a helper robot. He just goes around, hey, you want to open that can of tomatoes? Here you go.
Yeah, there you go. Or, stick it in the base of Link's neck and just sort of work your way around, and we get gruesome here.
Oh, jeez, God, that's some like Resident Evil 4 stuff here.
It's one of those things, it's like that perfect image where they show just enough to get you excited, but you're also wondering about the possibilities of it. And these are the type of images I really like when Nintendo releases stuff like this.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's not much to say about the shrine itself. I mean, actually, we can see what looks like a locked gate in the back, so...
You probably have to beat him.
That might mean this is more of a boss, actually, than the typical shrine-based mini guardians.
Yeah, the angle makes it a little difficult. I don't know if it's the same size as Link or shorter. I mean, it looks shorter from the perspective, but I don't know if the angle changes, it'll be roughly the same size.
Yeah, the normal mini guardians are a bit shorter than Link, and with this guy extending upwards, I'm guessing he's probably about double the height of the usual mini ones. So he's probably at least, if not at least as tall as Link, perhaps even taller.
It would make sense. You kind of need to have that range, and if you're trying to hit this thing with your sword and actually have a sword fighter block with the shield, you kind of need to be on a somewhat even playing field. Yeah, just as a pure concept, I love this thing.
Yeah, it's very cool. It has me excited to see what other monstrosities are going to have waiting for us in those shrines and maybe elsewhere in the world. Like, I can't wait to find out more about these guardians and their exact purpose. I mean, we've speculated a lot about this, but I want definitive details. And I can't wait to actually take on these guys, too. Like, they look like so much fun to take on out in the field.
It's so cool. Like, you're just hoping for some really cool moments based around these guys and, like, just figuring out the different tactics to take them all down or take them on or just even escape from them.
Yep. There's one more thing I wanted to bring up real quick. It was a comment from Russ that reminded me of this, where he mentioned there's no way this isn't releasing in March. They wouldn't advertise the game every day for 5 months straight.
Right, that one.
do you have thoughts about that?
I do, actually, because does he forget about Smash?
Right?
Because how long did we talk about Smash and their daily updates?
We talked about for about a year, I think, but they'd been doing it even before then. Because we didn't start until a few months after they started.
Yeah, they pretty much started after E3 and then just kept going, and we were like 4 or 5 months late. We didn't start until after you finished that initial Smash analysis. And then we started doing it each week, and I kept going for a good year, maybe even a little bit more than that. So yeah, no, that to me just says nothing about its release date. Nintendo is certainly able to continue posting things for that long of a time, especially when it's not as frequent as Smash Brothers.
So, I mean, I agree with you in general. I mean, we've seen that with Smash, but for whatever reason, I am starting to get the sense now between some of the potential marketing things we've seen come out, from retailers, for instance. I'm getting the sense that this is going. I'm getting the sense that Zelda Breath of the Wild is coming out sooner rather than later in terms of the Switch. So I mean, I've long said if it's not coming out at launch, it'll be holiday, and I'm kind of sticking with that, which means that I'm leaning toward this being a launch title now, maybe, which I realize goes against what Laura K. Dale has heard. But I'm thinking it makes the most sense. Like, I think that makes more sense than Mario being a launch, because we've barely seen anything of Mario, and hopefully we will. I mean, we will, I'm sure, come January 12th. But everything, to me, everything is pointing to this game coming out sooner than later, and I'm thinking it might be a launch. Like, especially if they're trying to mirror replicate the Wii success, where they also had the Zelda launch game. I just think it makes sense.
I could see it. I could definitely see it releasing on launch day. That would be extremely major because people have been waiting for this game for a very long time. But I'm also, maybe for my own not protection, but just sanity, expecting later, hoping for earlier. It's like if we do get a delay, when they reveal the Switch on January 12th, it's like, okay, yeah, I can wait for that. But if they say, hey, it's coming out March, it's going to be there for launch, awesome, I'm right there. So maybe that's sort of the perspective I'm going into for this. But I could certainly see it actually coming out for the March because they are talking about it quite a bit. But I could also see We just need a little bit more time, so we're going to delay it.
I believe the rumor was it will come out in summer, right? Like shortly after the Switch.
Yeah, sometime in June.
Yeah, I mean, like for whatever reason, it just feels wrong to me. So I'm not feeling that. I'm feeling either launch or holiday. And at this point, I'm thinking holiday is just too far out there. Even though, as you mentioned, they've done that with Smash. But I think with Smash, we always knew that was coming far later once the update started. Where I'm not getting that sense this time. So yeah, I'm leaning toward this being earlier, and I hope it's launch. Like if this is a launch title, that is a great way to start. Especially given the fact that they showed off in the trailer, or in the Switch reveal. Like this is a game. This is like the perfect game to showcase the Switch's function, being able to play at home and on the go. Like this is the caliber title you want to showcase that feature. So you can play a console level title anywhere. Whereas don't get me wrong, Mario could be something similar as well. I love Mario games, obviously, but Zelda, the scale of Zelda is something different.
The handheld Zelda games have always always had a different feel than the console Zelda games, and this is immediately showing that difference. To be able to take something like this console experience on the go. Absolutely.
Alright, well, I think we've wrapped things up for this week, or past 2 weeks, so thanks guys for watching. If you liked our discussion, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. You can find links to them in the description below, which is a good way to keep up to date on everything we post. And of course, stay tuned for more Zelda updates from us whenever we can. Hopefully, it's looking like we might be doing these every 2 weeks, not entirely sure. If big news happens, maybe we'll do it weekly. You never know. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Of course, stay tuned to GameXplain for lots more on Zelda and other things gaming as well. Catch you later. Bye.